Hello, Year 12. I hope you're all well and enjoying your second week back at school. Today we are going to be, I'm going to be going through a lesson with you, which is in your Passions booklet, which you should hopefully all have now. Um, I would like you to open it to page 14, please. We are going to be going through the activities in this section of the booklet, and the lesson is called Passions for Language, Idioms and Slang. And this is what we're going to be focusing on for this lesson. So as always, if you can just follow along with the recording, and when I ask you to pause the clip to carry out an activity or a task, please can you make sure you do that as well and make sure you're making your notes. Okay, so hopefully by now, after your introductory lessons on language, you now kind of have an insight to how diverse language is, how complex it can be, and how wonderful it is as well. You know, it's always the idea of it always changing, never fixed, which is brilliant. What we also want to think about, what we're going to start to think about with idioms and slang, is also the subtlety. Uh, to English language as well. The sheer variation of meaning as well. For example, we use words and phrases in certain areas of, so we're talking about regional in certain areas of the country that might mean one thing in one area and something else in a different area of the country. And in our social groups as well. We use cultural references in our language. We use cliched expressions that we all can be familiar with. We often use words and sayings that have a surface meaning, which might be one thing, but an actual hidden meaning underneath it, a figurative meaning that we're trying to convey. This all makes language very interesting, but also very complex for people who are perhaps learning the English language to understand and grasp as well. And these are all things we're going to be looking at in the lesson today, starting, of course, with idioms. Now, you may not have come across this word before, you may have done, but what I would like you to do, first of all, is I would like you to write the definition for idioms somewhere at the top of that first page for me. I'm just going to put it on the screen now. So what is an idiom? It is a manner of speaking that is natural to native speakers of a language, and it's an everyday overused metaphor. Now, I've come across metaphors many times before in English. Now, essentially, all this means that an idiom is a word or saying with a figurative meaning. Okay, so its surface meaning isn't really what you're trying to get across, it's the hidden meaning underneath. So it's kind of like an image to convey a certain message, a certain meaning, or advice on how to live your life, those sorts of things. So, for an example, the green-eyed monster is an idiom when we talk about someone who is jealous. That is the metaphor idiom there. Another example would be I'm going to hit the hay. Okay, obviously I am going to sleep. There's another idiom there. Just a couple of examples. So what I'd like to make sure you get down now is the definition for idioms. So just pause this for a second, get it down, and then we're going to move on and look at some specific examples. Okay, so on this next slide here, guys, we have a catchphrase, name the idiom, and this should be at the top of your booklet as well. You'll see you've got 10 images all in all on there. These are 10 images that represent a certain saying slash idiom, okay, which is what we're going to call them from now on. Now, you may have seen Catchphrase on the TV before. It's like a quiz show where they have a panel of people and they show a big image on the screen and they reveal it section by section. They don't reveal the whole image at once. And they have to guess and they have to figure out what the saying is, what the idiom is. Now that's what you're going to do with this. Obviously, you've got the whole image. I want you to try and figure out what the idiom is. I will give you the first one to give you an idea of what kind of thing we're looking for here. You've got 3 buckets. It says kick me. This is just kicked the bucket, okay, is what that means there. Kick the bucket is that same. So I would like you now to complete this for the 9, I think there's 9 more there. Yes, there is. For the following 9, and pause this clip while you do that. Okay, hopefully you managed to give that a go. On the next slide, we're going to have the answers to see if you've got those down. We've got kick the bucket to beat around the bush, miss the boat at the drop of a hat, curiosity killed the cat, the ball is in your court, let sleeping dogs lie, hit the nail on the head, add an insult to injury, and once in a blue moon. They're all quite famous idioms that you've probably heard of before. What I would like you to think about right now is I would like to highlight the ones that you think you use the most. You might not use any of them, but I'm sure you might have used some of them in life. So, for example, for me, I would say I use the ball as in your court. I've used that before, definitely. Curiosity killed the cat, I've definitely used, and hit the nail on the head as well. So there would be my three. So just highlight which ones that you would say you've used, or maybe you're more familiar with in terms of parents might use, friends might use. Okay, hopefully you've managed to highlight those there. So now we're going to move on to the next slide. Now this, I think, I always like sort of mentioning this as well. So we're looking at Shakespeare here. Now Shakespeare, you have come across, of course, you've come across in your studies when you've studied Macbeth. You may love Shakespeare, you may not so much love Shakespeare, because it is quite difficult language to get your head around. But one thing's for sure is that Shakespeare is very, very influential, more influential than you probably even know or even think, because actually Shakespeare coined, so made 250 idioms and phrases that we actually use today. So his creativity, okay, the language that he has coined, it has an impact and influence, and it's still in our vocabulary today. So if someone comes along, because many people have come along and asked me, why Shakespeare? What's the point in Shakespeare? I don't understand. It's completely different language. What's the point in learning it? Well, you can turn around now and say, well, actually, Shakespeare has influenced our language massively. And there's so many phrases you don't realise and idioms that have actually come from Shakespearean plays. So what I'd like you to do is have a little look at these sayings. I mean, there are loads on here that you're bound to have come across before. And I just want you to take a moment to read through those, and I would like you to highlight which ones you're actually quite familiar with, or which ones you've actually used yourself as well. I'm sure we've all heard of a brave new world or break the ice. They're quite common ones as well. And eat me out of house and home. I know for a fact that my mother used to say that to me when I lived at home. So I've definitely heard that one before. So I just want you to take a second to pause this and highlight the ones that you're actually really familiar with, and maybe that you're a bit shocked. Well, oh, actually, I didn't realize it. This came from Shakespeare. So Shakespeare has influenced your own language. So just take a moment there. Okay, next slide. So how Shakespeare influences the way we speak now, because obviously, as we've just seen there, he definitely has. So, in your booklet, you have an article. I would like you to grab that now for me, please. It says How Shakespeare Influences the Way We Speak Now. I would like you to read through that article for me. All right, and what I would like you to do is I would like you to just write down, highlight anything interesting that comes up there, and you'll see at the end of the article it has a box. It says three things to remember. So I just want you to take three key things from this article that you find really interesting, that you think, oh wow, I didn't know that. That's great. Okay, or three key points it's trying to get across. And I would like you to write those down in that box underneath, please. So please give this and pause this clip again and read that article for me. Okay, hopefully you've had a chance to read the article. And of course, there's some more idioms in there that you may not have come across, that you may not have, sorry, realized that Shakespeare had actually coined himself. In a pickle was one that obviously well, I'm very familiar with that one. Gossip, bedazzled, grovel. These are all kind of words, phrases, or idioms that Shakespeare introduced to our language, which is absolutely phenomenal when you think about that there. Okay, what we're going to think about now then, guys, is, you know, idioms are we're familiar with them. You may be familiar with quite a few of those idioms that we've looked at. However, you've got to think about how difficult it must be for non-native English speakers to actually grasp what's being said, because they not only have to learn the surface meaning of words when they're sort of learning our language. Not only that, but people also have to learn the figurative meaning, which is a lot more complex for people essentially, for non-native English speakers. So just thought, it'd be interesting to have a little think on that there. Our language is very difficult to learn, and we're going to be looking at that in another lesson as well. And this is just one of the ways that it's difficult because a lot of our language is, that whatever the surface meaning is not always the meaning of what we're trying to convey, what we're trying to get across. So yeah, it is very difficult for that. Okay, so what we're going to be moving on to next is this idea of slang, and you will see at the bottom of that box, remember, you have some slang, okay? So we're thinking about slang. I use slang. I'm assuming most of you guys use slang. Um, I want you to think about here we have a list of slang that I think is used today. This is from 2018, guys. I would like you, for me, to try and have a go at defining them. All right, so you may have heard of some of them, you may have heard of all of them. I would like you to write down next to each, what do you think it means? Pause this clip again, please, and give that a go. Okay, I'm going to put the actual definitions up on the screen now. There we go. So these are the definitions. You can, if you've got it down, great. If there's some you didn't get down, get them down. But there's absolutely loads on here that I've definitely come across in life and from day to day. I've definitely come across fam before. It's anything I didn't know personally myself. Um, I didn't know what Hundo P was, so that was interesting. And I wasn't sure about curve. Yeah, I wasn't sure about that one. But the rest of them, I was quite impressed with myself. I knew what they were. So if you could get those down for me, please, that would be great. And you do have one more article to read, which I think is a really, really interesting article. On the next slide, I'll bring it up. So this article is called "Banning Slang Will Only Further Alienate Young People in It." So I want you to read this article for me, guys. It shares the opinion of both sides, okay, of the debate, of the arguments, that teenage slang is positive and that teenage slang should be banned. What I would like you to do for me is see it in the box underneath. I'd like to highlight two sides of the argument. So when you come across, an argument saying that it's a positive thing, highlight in one colour, negative in another. And then I want you to write in that box, what are your views after reading this for me, please? And this is the last activity I would like you to do. But do make sure you explain your points thoroughly and give some examples as well. Okay, thank you very much for listening here as well. And I hope you enjoyed that lesson. Thank you very much.